There is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow.
He's making the fights. I personally didn't like the fact that he was saying bad things about Tim Tszyu, you know, saying we're not going to work with him. And
yeah,
Tszyu, he's a warrior. You've seen what he got through in his last fight,
right.
And I just think that he's got the kid's got grit.
That was like a bully. He almost came off like a bully.
Yeah,
like His Excellency. You know, look, I'm glad he's making the fights. One thing I don't like, boxing is only loyal to money.
Yeah.
And the fact that Turkey got inducted into I think he got inducted into the Las Vegas Boxing Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
It's a joke. And we all know no sound. Man. 1 2 3 1 2 3. See if I can figure this out. Trying to get the sound. Just trying to get this worked out. Oh, you hear me? Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So we do have sound. So let me play this clip. He did it because he's got money and everybody's down. Everybody wants a piece of the money. Don't induct the guy into the Hall of Fame. Like, he has no track. His track record is an inch when other guys have been for a mile. That's what I'm saying. Boxing, you like deserve is not a word you can use. But he's in the Nevada right now. He is in the Nevada Boxing Hall of Fame because they want to do business with him. Everybody wants to do, and I get it. I love that he's making the fights, but I don't like what he really came off like a bully with Tszyu, and I'm sure that I don't think that's his intent, but it came off as very bullyish.
Yeah.
But what I love is he's making fights, and for me, I'm on the East Coast of the United States. When they have those fights in Saudi, it's during the day. I don't have to stay up till 2, 3 in the morning.
Oh, you're so lucky.
So that was my boys, the fellas, iBoxing Hub. Make sure you subscribe. They got a great channel. They're on every day. They have shows every day. It's different hosts, different shows, but we talked about a lot of things. They talked to me about my past with HBO. So we were talking a little Turkey, a la Sheik. I always have a good time talking boxing. And guys, you inspired me to finally get on and talk some boxing with people. I'm going to drop the link. Look, we had Floyd Mayweather over the weekend. We got Canelo and Berlanga coming up. Do people care about Floyd Mayweather anymore? Do people care about the Canelo Berlanga fight? It used to be when Canelo would fight, it didn't matter who, he's going to get a big audience. He probably still will. But yeah, man, shout to you guys, and I'm glad my sound is working. I don't know. I think it's time for a new computer here. But I'm going to drop the link in a few. But over the weekend, I'm curious, the people that saw Floyd Mayweather, did people pay? I watched it. I did not pay. Did people pay to see that? And because people are complaining, and I have to be honest, if you're paying to see Floyd Mayweather do an exhibition at 47, and then you complain about it, like, oh, he didn't knock the guy, man, whatever. Like, stop. Just then you don't know boxing if you're paying to see Floyd Mayweather at 47 and then complaining when the exhibition wasn't up to par. But yeah, shout out to the fellas at iBoxing Hub. I really enjoyed doing their show. But yeah, we did. All right, let me get this link in because I want to get some people on here. Copy and paste and boom. So before we talk more Canelo, Oscar De La Hoya, every Thursday on Instagram, he has I think it's called Clapback Thursday. I'm about to play his last one from last week, but Oscar's hilarious, man. I mean, if everyone saw him and his girl, he was dancing in the thong, I guess, and it got ripped off, or it got taken off of Instagram, whatever. And you see Oscar right there. By the way, that used to be in the lobby. It's a life-size cardboard cutout, and it used to be in the lobby at HBO Sports. So, in fact, on the bottom of it, Heart and Soul of Boxing. HBO's logo used to be the Heart and Soul of Boxing. So that used to be in the lobby, and it is now in my office. But let me play Oscar's last clapback. He talks about that. He talks about Berlanga. He talks about Canelo. So if you haven't seen it, check it out.
All right, guess what time it is? It's Clapback Thursdays. All right, since the boxing world hasn't produced much news lately, I'll have to take this one a different direction. This one actually deserves a full round of applause. Okay, so I love to dance, and who doesn't? And I love wearing my tanga because I'm in great shape. I have a beautiful partner. I don't like tan lines. Okay, so we come back from the beach, and we started dancing. What happens next? We go fucking mega viral. Most people think it's hilarious, but of course, some find it offensive. And offensive, why? Why is it so impossible for people to have fun these days? What happened to the world? Why is everybody so fucking angry all the time? People here in America wake up every day looking for something to be offended by. So just listen. Listen to this advice. Throw on some music, a little G-string, and maybe you'll get some for the first time since 2022.
Oscar's kind of corny, but he's still funny. He's starting to kind of read from a script now when he does these, but he moves on.
Edgar Berlanga, I called you out for not being Puerto Rican. I simply spoke the facts. So you got embarrassed and posted a 14-year-old photo of me that the world has already seen and memed 1,000,000 times. Bro, why didn't you just post your birth certificate from Puerto Rico? Unless you don't have one. Don't tell me you're another lame who is offended by the truth. Come on, bro. In other news, Devin Haney had his comeback fight last week at the Orange County State Fair. I don't know if you've seen the full video, but Devin throws a punch at a civilian all while standing in front of the Ferris wheel. And he missed. Bro, your dream has officially turned into a fucking nightmare. And as always, the most important topic of every week. Canelo, fuck you.
So there's Oscar. Oscar is hilarious. He's starting to read a script. You could tell now, but it's still kind of funny. I mean, he's Oscar. Hey, listen, the link is out. So if anyone wants to talk boxing, jump in, because that's why I'm on. Really, no topics. We can talk about anything boxing, but Fighting Temple says Oscar. Yeah, I mean, Oscar's hilarious. He always goes off on Canelo. And Edgar Berlanga. Look, I can remember when Hector Camacho, who's Puerto Rican, they would always say he's not a real Puerto Rican because he grew up in New York. And Berlanga grew up in New York too. But boxing takes that angle. It's the Mexican and the Puerto Rican. I don't think Berlanga. All right, you're talking about Edgar Berlanga. I don't think he wins the fight. I think that Canelo. I think Munguia can beat Berlanga. I know you can't do it like this, but I think Munguia would beat Berlanga. And now Edgar Berlanga. Ooh. Rafael, I'm going to get yours in there. Edgar Berlanga's 22-0. 17 knockouts. He only has one knockout in his last, I don't know how many fights. And that was against Padraig McCrory, who, I'm sorry, I never heard of. I'd never heard of him. But, he's struggled in some of these fights. Jason Quigley, who's a middleweight, you look at his record, you look at Berlanga's record, and I see no way does he have a shot. I mean, everybody's got a shot, but he can't beat Canelo. I don't think he deserved a shot, but like I talked to with my boys, you can't use the word deserve because it's boxing. You don't have to deserve something to get something. Boxing gives to who it wants to give to. And Canelo calls all the shots. So if he wanted to fight me, then I would get a shot, even though I'm not a fighter. Now this, Ennis versus Norman Jr. has to happen. You know what? I was talking about that, Rafael. I was talking about that with my boys. I got somebody. My man.
George, where you been?
Yo, I know. Look, it's I have no excuse. I've been working now. I have been working on a boxing project that I can't. I mean, it's not a secret, but I can't say too much about it. But dude, I realized I went on with my boys at iBoxing Hub the other day, and I said, you know what? If you want your channel to grow, you have to get out there and you have to put content out. And I realized that I hadn't done a live in a long time, so I said, you know what? Just do it. So, but it has been a while. It's good to be back talking boxing.
Missed you, George. I got so many questions, and you might have. I wasn't aware of that you were doing other shows, so I don't know if you already voiced some of these opinions. But just to piggyback off the comment you just highlighted, how fun would it be to get Boots versus Norman? Like, I want to know what you think. And before you answer, I just want to say one thing. When Giovanni Santillán fought Norman, I did not know who Norman was.
Mm-hmm.
And Santillán, the way he beat Alexis Rocha, I was just like, whoa, like, this guy is really good. Like he could probably give some good competition to some of the top guys in the division. So I feel like I had high hopes. I think he was on the gravy train for a good minute. Then he fights Norman, and Norman outdogs him, like just beats him at his game. It was surreal. I was like, oh my gosh, this guy is the real deal. And then I hear this rumor about, I think Eddie. I enjoy Eddie Hearn interviews because they're fun. And they're asking him about Boots, and he's like, yeah, we offered to Barrios, he denied. We offered to Stanionis, he denied. We offered to Norman, he denied. But Norman, he's the one that we might have a chance. And then right after, I think either Norman or Junior or Senior, they're like, nope, that's not true. We sent a counter offer. We did not deny. And they actually really want this fight. So I feel like when two fighters want to fight, the fight can happen. So now I would really like your opinion. What are your thoughts on this fight? Who do you pick?
Man, I like Norman a lot. I interviewed him on my show a while ago. I think he's really good, man. But I don't think he's ready for Ennis right now. And I would be surprised if that fight happens. I know Norman's dad was saying they want the fight. I mean, it's just my opinion. I just don't think that he has the he needs some work. I don't think he's ready for Ennis, although I would like to see that fight. It's a unification fight. Here's something I hate about boxing. Norman is a champion now, but he was an interim champion. So you know how it is. He was an interim champion. You're not really a champion. So you have this interim belt, which isn't a real belt. And then when the real champion vacates, you're suddenly elevated. And it sucks, man, because you and I can't say, hey, remember when he won the belt? Because he really didn't have a fight that he won the belt. He was just elevated. But anyway, that's besides the point. I think Ennis is too good right now. I think Norman did look great in that fight with Santillan, but I just think Ennis has too much for him right now. That could change because Norman's young too. They're both young, but Norman is like, isn't he like 23?
Yeah, he's super young. I think Boots is higher 20s and Norman is young 20s. So
Yeah.
he's super young. Even if he does lose, like that should not be. People should not shun him for that. Like he's taking on. I mean, okay, Boots and Eddie Hearn have made it clear that they want to go undisputed at 147.
Yep.
I was thinking like, okay, Mario Barrios, I genuinely believe Boots beats him convincingly. You got Stanionis. I think Stanionis is a tough guy, but I do think Boots beats him convincingly. I actually think Norman would be the most competitive out of the other champions. I don't know how you feel.
Yeah, I think so too. I just like Stanionis is tough, but that tough isn't enough. And Barrios too. Barrios is besides Ugas, he's lost his biggest fights. He like made his name for losing against guys, but being tough, like Thurman and Tank. But yeah, I think Norman is the best of those guys. I would like to see the fight just because I think that Boots would win. I would still love to see the fight. And wouldn't it be great to see like champions in their 20s fight each other and not wait, like Boots and Spence did? I'm sorry. Yeah, no, Bud and Spence, not wait till they're like mid to late 30s to fight. It'd be nice to see some guys fight in their 20s. And you can't doubt Norman. He's tough. Norman's father has a kind of a beef with Tim Bradley because Tim Bradley, who is my friend, he points out what fighters do wrong, and Brian Norman Sr. thinks he's too tough on his son, but Tim thinks that he's got some defensive deficiencies, and if you have defensive deficiencies against Boots, that's not good. But he's tough. He's tough. He's skilled and he's tough. And if they made that fight, I'm with you. Like I'm excited. I'm excited for that fight if they make it.
Now I had seen that video of Tim Bradley and Norman Sr. like arguing in I think it was a weight or a press. I don't know. It looked like a press conference, and I always wondered like, what happened? Like I felt so out of the loop. Now you finally described it. I thought that's not. I mean, I think you should be able to take criticism, but to each their own. And agreed on the age thing. I feel like these guys are young killers for lack of a better term, and being able to see them face each other now instead of waiting to the end when they're in their mid to late 30s. I definitely agree with that, and it's possible because ESPN, or I should say, Top Rank and Matchroom have worked together when it comes to Turkey. So if Turkey wants to fight, I'm really hoping that could possibly happen. And to continue you mentioned Bud. What did you think about Bud Madrimov?
I thought Bud won. Like a lot of people are saying they thought Madrimov won. It was not really dominant. It was a It wasn't a great fight. I think a lot of people were just expecting Bud to be just like ripped through him. I think some people thought he would rip through him. Some people thought that Madrimov would give him a good fight. I thought it was a decent fight. I thought Bud won, but he had problems in the fight. Somebody put a sequence on there of Madrimov landing like 5 or 6 straight right hands. And you don't see that. I think it was right. It was right. I forget if it was right or left, but you don't see that. Let Bud get hit like that. But Bud also hadn't fought in a year, and he's 36 or 37. So I thought Bud won the fight. I did rewatch it because I was actually traveling. I was in LA the night they fought, but I was going from LA to Vegas for this other boxing project, and I saw the first 6 rounds, and then the plane took off, so I missed it. Like Raphael said, Crawford edged Madrimov. If it was a draw, I would not have been mad. Like I thought Bud won the fight, but it wasn't a scintillating fight. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, I agree with you and Raphael. I think that it was so. I'm gonna give you like just a quick story. So one of my friends who's a casual, I had invited him over to my place when Bud fought Spence, and he saw how hyped I was because I mean that was a monumental fight, as you know, and he decided to come through and watch it, and he was like amazed on the spectacle that it was a spectacle. It was an incredible fight. The show, the performance, Eminem, the knockouts. And
Yeah,
that made him a fan. He didn't even know who Bud was, and he became a Bud Crawford fan. So, a year goes by, and I'm chatting with my friend. I'm like, hey, Crawford's gonna fight Madrimov. I mean, you might not know Madrimov, but I'm telling you right now, fighters from Eastern Europe, especially Uzbekistan. You saw the Olympics. They have like 5 boxing gold, like Uzbekistan fighters are the real deal. It's going to be a fun
yeah,
fight. So he comes through, and it was a technical fight. It was a very technical fight, and
yep.
technical fights aren't the most fun for people that are not
Casual,
boxing. Yeah. Like
right?
we're boxing fanatics. We love the game, so we're like into it, watching every little thing. But one, it was so late at night that I was falling. I didn't
Oh,
want to fall asleep. It was so late, like I was falling asleep. And I love boxing, but when it's not as exhilarating, you do get a little drowsy. And I'm trying to stay up, trying to pay attention. My friend is like, "Man, dude, this is not that exciting." I'm like, "I'm sorry, like I did not know it was gonna be this technical because Madrimov and the fight that I had seen him fight before, he was aggressive. He would go forward, but I mean Madrimov, for it being his first full round fight, it was impressive that he was able to go with the pound for pound king. Like
yeah,
that was
no
really
doubt.
good. And I actually told people were telling me, yeah, Crawford's gonna knock him out. I was like, man, I really do not think. I think it's going to decision. I still expected Crawford to win, but I expected it to go to decision, and it did. But I think it clarified my view on Canelo Crawford for me. Like I think that fight is crazy. I don't know how you feel.
I do too, and everybody says, or a lot of people say, that's why they make. That's why you have weight divisions. I don't want to see. I don't want to see Bud and Canelo. I don't. But knowing Canelo, he picks who he wants to fight. It has nothing to do with whether you deserve a fight with him. He's been on the record as saying he wouldn't fight Bud, and that was before Bud fought Madrimov. So Bud, I don't want to say struggled, but it was a competitive fight with Madrimov. Why would Canelo change his mind unless what talks louder than anything in boxing is money, and if he's getting some obscene amount of money to fight him, suddenly maybe it could happen. But I don't want to. I don't want to see it. I mean, Bud moving up to 168. He used to be a lightweight. I mean, I don't want to. I don't want to see it. I really don't. But Madrimov is tough. He's a good fighter. Um, but yeah, I thought he edged it out. Hey, let me ask you something. Did you watch the Mayweather exhibition and the card from last weekend?
Absolutely not. I was not gonna watch that. I'm sorry. Like at
I
Floyd.
did. And I was talking to my boys on iBoxing Hub. I did. Now I didn't pay for it, and I'm proud that I didn't pay for it. I want to see Carmel. Really, that's all. I want to see that, and I'm always interested to see Floyd. Now, if I was going to pay, no shot. I'm curious if that made money. But anyway, so you didn't watch it, so you didn't miss anything. I mean, I stayed up till I don't know, man, like 1:30 in the morning watching
What?
that.
For that, you're a real Floyd fan, George. You gotta give your props.
But I don't know what I am. I stayed up because there was nothing else on. So I said, you know what, I'm going to see this through, and I'll give Floyd credit, man, for 47. He's a middleweight now. I think Floyd could be he could grab a belt at 160. I really do. Erislandy Lara's got a belt at 160. I mean, the funny thing is, people were complaining about, oh, Floyd couldn't knock this guy out. He's really done. He's 47. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's done, and he toyed with this guy, but they keep throwing money at him. So, well, I guess my point is you didn't miss anything. I mean, for a 47-year-old, he looked good. There was a point I'd never seen this before, but this was a rematch because they had an exhibition fight before where some crazy stuff happened. Kenny Bayless, they were talking to each other. Now, this is an exhibition, and Kenny Bayless calls the fight off because they wouldn't stop talking. And there was like the big, that both camps got into it. They were attacking each other, so they had this rematch. So in the second round, the ref warned Floyd for like he was throwing some shots, and Gotti was coming in, so they were hitting him in the back of the head. So the ref was warning Floyd, and Floyd started screaming at the ref like there was a timeout. Trainers came in the ring. A new ref came in for the next round. He fired the ref and had another ref come in for round 3. It was
That's wild.
it was like, man, I felt like I legit was in the Twilight Zone because it's 2024 and I'm watching a Floyd Mayweather fight. That's a pay-per-view, and he's 47 years old, but I didn't pay for it. I would never. Like I bought some bad pay-per-views in my day, but I would not. And now though, it's so easy to see things for free. So you didn't miss anything. I mean, Victor Ortiz had an exhibition on the undercard.
It was bad, right?
Oh my God, it was so bad because they were legitimately like not even trying to hurt each other. It was even worse than a sparring session. Like, and then I heard that I don't know why it was on the card, but supposedly he's got a real fight this week. But I feel like they were trying to build up interest for a rematch between Ortiz and Mayweather, which I don't want to see. I don't want to see. But look, Floyd is. I guess he's getting paid. I mean, it was in Mexico and it was a big crowd there, but it was just weird, man. I woke up the next day, I just felt weird. Like, I just felt weird. I mean, my God, I'd have been pissed if I bought it, but yeah, you didn't miss anything.
I'm glad. I mean, I'm pretty active on X, so I did see a couple of skits and or clips from the fight, and I could be wrong, but at first glance, it looked like the referee was Luis Pabon. I don't know if it was Luis Pabon, but it looked like Luis Pabon. And
yeah, I don't know.
He's the guy that called the low blow against Usyk and Dubois.
Right.
So I don't know. It doesn't really matter, but that's what it came to my head. I was like, wow, you kicking out Luis Pabon. Luis Pabon is kind of a little bit annoying sometimes. So I kind of understand where Floyd came from, but I don't know. I could be wrong there, but yeah, I heard that Victor Ortiz was dead, which is a little sad because Victor Ortiz was awesome back in the days. And Carmel, I wanted to see Carmel. I mean, Carmel is. I mean, he fought for 58 seconds. I think that's what I saw online.
Yeah.
So he's awesome. I mean, who do you who are some of your favorite young prospects? Like, I feel like the names that come up a lot are Abdullah Mason and Carmel. Like, who do you?
Yeah, I mean, Abdullah Mason is he's him, Carmel. You can't really call Brian Norman. He's a champion now, so you can't really call him a prospect. But there's quite a few guys that I really want to see. But boxing very quickly they like to elevate these guys and say, "Oh, these guys are great." But how many fighters in the past look great, like Francisco Bajado and Ricardo Williams and guys like that, who people said these guys can't miss, and then they missed. The great thing about them is, we get to watch their journey, and they're going to get matched tougher, and then we'll see if they're the goods. That's why I like Boots. Boots is a champion now, and I think Boots. I mean, many people think that he is one of the most skilled fighters in the sport. but you don't really know until they fight the fights and fight tough fights. You just don't know, because sometimes, you know, the fighters aren't what we thought they were. Maybe they, you know, they get bothered when they get cut or whatever. I just want to see these guys fight the fights, and if they're the goods, they are. My point with Boots is Boots hasn't had a lot of fights, and he's got all the skill, but you know, we just have to see it in fights. I got to just say one thing. Boxing After Dark says, "Hey, bro, I see Jeff Chandler versus Murata on your wall. Really cool. Does that fight mean something to you?" Well, not really, but I did see the fight. But Jeff Chandler used to fight when I was a kid. You know, we had great fights on every single weekend. But I have a bunch of posters like that, that a friend of mine gave to me, who was collecting them. We both worked at HBO. I mean, it's a big, thick thing of posters, and that's one of the posters that's on there. Oh, Boxing Scholar. Look, I got the trifecta. Giorgio and the Boxing Scholar. What's up, Scholar?
George, man, where you been at, man? I ain't heard from you in about 3 years now.
Oh man, it feels like 30. You know what? I got caught up with work in the summer, and then I realized, man, I haven't done this in so long, and the only way you grow your channel is by doing stuff. So yeah, man. So I had to just finally do it. The summer's over. It's August 27th. Summer's over. So I'm back. Hey, I disagree with you. I think Floyd can get a belt at 160, and I'm not going to argue it. Like, if you disagree, I'm really not going to argue. But 160 is weak. It's weak.
It is. Whoever the winner of Garcia and Laura is going to be food. But I don't know if Mayweather could do it. He don't got the power. He's never had the power.
You're right, but you know what? I know that I'm getting mad. I can't even get a sentence out. The fact that Garcia hasn't fought in 2 years, and I don't think he ever fought at 160, and he's getting a title shot. Like,
that's ridiculous. I heard somewhere that, at least previously negotiated, they were going to fight for the 160 belt at a catch weight of like 155 or something like that. I don't know if that's still the case, but if they do that, if they allow Garcia to fight for the 160 belt at a catch weight below 160, that is one of the worst things I've ever seen in boxing.
Scholar, like, you know how it is. It doesn't matter what you deserve in boxing. Sometimes you just get it. Like Danny Garcia, how is he? Like, you can't explain when I try to explain boxing to my friends that don't really know the sport. They look at me like I'm an idiot. Like, what are you talking about? He's getting a title shot and he hasn't fought in 2 years? Well, yeah. Well, how is he getting a title shot? Like, they ask questions I can't really answer, and the answer is, oh, well, that's boxing. You know, I mean, it's a weak response, but if you know boxing, people know if someone says, oh, well, you know, that's boxing, like the judges screw up a decision, that's boxing, and it's lame, but it's true. But I don't know, man. I like Danny Garcia. Like, I was in his camp for 2 weeks before he fought Spence. I like Danny Garcia a lot, and his dad and his family. But Danny Garcia has made a lot of money, and he's made a lot of good investments. Like, he's not hurting for money. He's like one of those guys. Like, he's you know, he gets up with the silk pajamas. But he still, I don't know. He still claims he wants to fight, but he hasn't fought in 2 years. You think? All right. So since we're talking about him, start with you, Boxing Scholar. Can Danny Garcia beat Lara?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, but Lara's turned into. Isn't it funny how Lara is? I think he's a Cuban, so he's probably 64. He's 64 years old, and suddenly he moves up to 160. Scholar, he's knocking guys out now.
Mysteriously, yeah,
mysteriously knocking guys out.
Yeah, he found the fountain of youth. Yeah, I get that too. Like, yeah, man. So this is what I say about Danny Garcia, and this is why I knew he would beat Benavidez, because I remember people was picking against Danny. You know what I mean, for size or whatever.
Right.
I said, you guys got to remember this. A while back, I remember Teddy Atlas losing his shit on the show because he was going to fight a dude named Sadiqa. I can't remember the guy's name, but they moved him up to fight Danny Garcia, and he wasn't ranked. And Teddy Atlas made a really big deal about it live on air. And then the fight still continued, but they just did, his ranking wasn't I think top 10 at the time. I can't remember. It's been a while since, but I do remember this. And that's when I knew that Danny Garcia was the way he moves in boxing is really, really calculated. And I knew that they picked Benavidez for a reason, and there was no way that they were going to lose that fight. They probably prepared for that fight probably a year before they actually fought the guy. You know what I mean? Like, game plan and all this other stuff. So I knew he would beat him. I think it's the same thing with Laura. I think he's been game planning to fight Laura for probably a year and a half. So I personally think he's gonna beat Laura. But like you said, man, it's crazy that's even a fight. I have to explain to people, I always jokingly say Boots is a champion prospect, right?
Right, exactly.
We've always had in history somebody gets old or moves up out of the division and then they give the belt, but there's no way to avoid other champions, right? So you still have to fight your way. Like, you earn your position and you have to fight to keep it. Now they can just hold on to the belts and maneuver themselves around, and people will justify, well, Brian Norman's not really ready for Boots. Okay, but he got a belt. So he needs to give up the belt if he's not ready.
Right. Agreed. Giorgio, or what about Garcia and Lara? Who do you see winning that fight?
I agree with you. It's so odd that I'm even talking about that. But I haven't seen Lotto fight the way Lotto fights since like he fought O'Sullivan. All the other fights he's been knocking out, and it's been odd. But I mean, I'm gonna have to go against both of y'all. I guess I'll go with Lotto beating Danny, even though the scholar said it perfectly. Danny's probably been preparing for this for like a year, so he knows exactly what he's gonna go into. But I mean, Lotto has looked really good the past two fights. It's gonna be hard to pick against him, and I haven't seen Danny fight since he fought Benavidez, and I didn't think that fight was that great personally. So I'll go Lotto here.
Boy, Lotto, he moves up to 160, and he's 3-0 with 3 knockouts: a first round knockout, 8th round knockout, and a second round knockout. And he's 67 years old, and he's knocking guys out. I just, oh man, I don't know. I mean, it's intriguing, I guess, but I mean, Danny Garcia hasn't fought in 2 years. I don't know. I mean, we're talking about him because I brought him up, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that fight is.
Let me ask you one more before I jump off. What were your thoughts on Volachek and Ortiz?
Ortiz, he's like another guy that everybody heaps all this praise on these guys before they really do anything, and they get this, well, there's like this inflated sense of them as fighters, and he's another guy. I think he needs work. Like, I think I thought it was a close fight, and I thought it could have gone either way, but well, no, you know what, what did Boachuk knock him down 3 times?
I think twice.
Twice. Hard to overcome that, man. And there were a lot of close rounds. I think Ortiz is a little too hyped. I don't think he's going to live up to his hype. I really don't. You remember when him and Boots were supposed to be the Leonard Hearns of 140 at 147? Like, those were the two that were going to. Then Ortiz, because of health reasons, couldn't make 147. Like, Ortiz needs to steer clear of Bud. But he's still young. He's another guy, isn't he? Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't he only like 24 or 25?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, he's around that age. Him and Boots are around. You know what's crazy about that? They've both been boxing 8 years, and we can't name a significant fight that they've had to even give them this praise that we be giving them.
Exactly. That's what I was saying, Scholar. Like, it's okay to hype guy up, like we were saying about Boots. I think Boots has the talent. Like, he passes all those eye tests, whatever you want to say. He looks like he could be a great fighter, but you have to fight the fights. You have to there's been so many prospects over the years that were supposed to be just Joel Julio. I mean, we can all name dozens of fighters who like they had so much hype, but guess what? They didn't live up to it. You just don't know until they fight their fights. And to your point, they've been fighting for 8 years, Ortiz and Boots, and there isn't really that like they haven't had the big fight, the fight that they really proved themselves against another top quality fighter. So, but that's how it is in boxing now. It's rare when two young guys fight each other. And like, look, go back to Leonard Hearns 1. Hearns was like 22 and Leonard was 25 or whatever he was, or Hearns was 22 or 23. They were both champions, unifying at 147. It just doesn't happen anymore, man. And it makes me, it is what it is. It doesn't make me sad, but I guess it just is what it is.
I do think Ortiz now has that fight. I think he proves himself with Boachek. I don't know if he won, but I do think he has that fight now. I don't think Boots has it yet. Maybe it'll be Norman. I don't know. Scholar, who did you think won between Boachek and Ortiz?
Boachek, easy.
A lot of people agree with you.
I think easy. Even if you do the math, I mean, you could make an argument for a draw, maybe, but that definitely. I remember I turned the fight off before it ended, and I said, I don't need to see the decision. They're like, what? Like, watch this. It's Golden Boy. It's Golden. You think they're talking about? His Excellency has already said. We already know of his power. I don't have to tell you who that is, right? That his name ring bells in boxing. He already announced Bud Crawford versus Ortiz. You think that they're gonna make him go into that fight with a loss? Absolutely not.
There you go. See, you know. And to your point, Georgie, I mean, I think, yeah, he did prove something, because you never know when these guys get knocked down how they're going to react. And he did get up and he did fight back. But let's see if he corrects any flaws he showed. If he keeps getting clipped like that in the future, he definitely, like, when you get dropped and you get back up and fight back and win, you've proven something. You proved something, because not everybody does it. When you have a swollen eye, like, Leonard Hearns won, you overcome that. You're proving something. But as far as the decision, it really was no surprise. And it's funny, Scholar, that you turned the TV off because you knew unless Boachuk knocked him out, you knew what was going to happen. And then guess what? It happened.
And I feel like that fight showed me a lot more about like how we rank fighters. A lot of times I hear people say hate, right? This guy's hating on this guy. This guy's hating on this guy. Y'all need to go back and look at some of those magazines and how they talked about Muhammad Ali, how they talked about a lot of fights. See, what happened back in the day is you had to prove yourself. They were going to overly criticize you and put hurdles in front of you, and you had to jump over those hurdles. Nowadays, it's the opposite. They're going to give you a bunch of praise before you even show that you're a good fighter. This is why people be getting derailed. This is why we seen Jared Anderson get demolished in the fight, because they were making him the next great American heavyweight champion without showing anything. It's the opposite nowadays. We need to get back to the old school of criticizing fighters.
You know what? You are so right, because like society's soft and it permeates into boxing, because you're right. That's the word that comes up. Or you're a hater. People say that about, Tim Bradley or anyone who calls fights. If they criticize a fighter, which they should do if they're doing something wrong, oh, you're a hater. No, maybe it's you're being factual. But I couldn't agree with you more. Jared Anderson, like, when you think about it, first of all, Jared Anderson, all he kept saying was, I don't love this. I love money. I want to make money. I don't love boxing. I don't care about boxing. Charles Martin, he has all sorts of problems with Charles Martin. So the writing was kind of on the wall. Then he fought nobody until he fought his last fight. And you're right, got demolished. It just does a fighter some good to be tested. Jerry Cooney, 40 years later, still wishes and he's even said, I don't know if I would have beat Holmes, but he wishes he was tested before he was elevated. Jerry Cooney, for a lot of reasons, was, he was elevated #1 contender, and was knocking out guys from the 70s, guys that Ali beat. So he wasn't ready. He didn't know if he could go 15 rounds. It just, man, everybody's scared of a loss, but you have to, you got to fight the fights. You have to, and they don't. And you're right. Everyone like Carmel, they're going to be heaping praise on him, and he's got speed, he's got power, he's got good feet, but you never know until they're in tough fights. But that's how it is. And you're right. It's more like that now than ever. And that's why people who know boxing weren't shocked when Jared Anderson. Now I kind of was shocked because I sold the dude. What was the guy's name that beat him?
Bacoli.
Yes. Yes. But I sold him short. I really did. Then I'm watching that fight and like every shot was landing. And Jared showed heart. He did show heart, and because he got up. He got dropped in the first. He got up, but that's all he showed. He didn't fight smart. He claims he's going to be back, but for a guy that said, I just want to make money, I don't care about boxing, it's too much pressure. I don't know, man. I don't know how far he's going to go, but I'm with you, Scholar. Like, man, let's get some. It's funny. It's the toughest sport, and nobody's emotionally tough now. Everyone, they cry about criticism, but whatever. It is what it is. I
the
guess.
softest fans for the toughest sport is crazy.
It's really weird because it really is. It's such a tough sport. Like, when you stand in a ring and it's you against one person, no team, and that's like Brian Norman's dad. They hate Tim Bradley. They think, and I've talked to Tim, and Tim said, I don't hate Brian Norman. I just see things he's doing wrong, and his father wants to fight me about it. So it's whatever.
Bro,
It is what
I'll
it is.
never understand the Timothy Bradley hate, bro. It comes out of nowhere, bro. It's really weird too. Like when I hear people talk about Brian Norman Sr. trying to challenge Timothy Bradley to a fight because of his opinion. That is insane. Can you imagine Randy Moss trying to fight John Madden? You know what I mean? Like what? Like this is insane.
Right. But that's and it is insane, but that's how it is. I mean, you can tell, I guess, I don't know, I can't think of an excuse, but sometimes commentators, they get too wrapped up in one guy or maybe overly criticize another. But like I watch the fights, I hear what Tim Bradley says, and I heard what he said about Norman, and I'm like, and I even interviewed Brian Norman, and I played him a clip of Tim Bradley talking about him. And I asked him, I said, isn't what Tim's saying, like, instead of people saying he's a hater, isn't the criticism valid? And he said, there's Brian Norman Jr. He said, yeah, I think it is valid. And he said how his dad has a problem with him, but he did say, whether he meant it or not, he said, yeah, I think it's valid criticism. I do have to work on things. But then, a couple weeks later, then like his dad's trying to fight Bradley, and it's just, I don't know. If you like, no one can take criticism now. No one. And in boxing, I just, it's frustrating, but that's how it is.
And the wildest part about that is Timothy Bradley's in the Hall of Fame. A guy's trying to Brian Norman was a boxer, but I mean, of course, he wasn't as successful as Tim. And it's like you're trying to fight that man because of what he said about your son. I go back to this, and what's interesting, Timothy Bradley said father-son duos to be banned. And if you look at everybody who dislikes him, it's always father-son duos. Everybody who trashes Tim Bradley is mad that he said something bad about their son. Consistently.
You're right. And you know what? Well, that's because fathers are more protective of your it's just inherent. You're going to be more protective of your son than another fighter that you have. He's right. I don't get it. I talked to Tim about the thing with Brian Norman's dad. And he said, you know what? Like, this guy's talking so much. And he said, that little clip you saw, I just said, what are you going to do? What are you going to, and Tim said, he told him, he said, look, I know you used to fight and you weren't shit as a fighter. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And nothing happened. Thank God nothing happened. But like, come on, man. Can you Howard Cosell, he would be critical of fighters. All those guys would. Were the fighters going to fight? Well, like Ali would play with Cosell because he knew. He knew. Nowadays, I hate saying it is what it is, but I don't think it's going to change.
Oh, it definitely ain't. It's gonna get worse if anything. Like and you know what's funny? See, George, you got to stand on your principle. We from the old school. Criticize, criticize, criticize. Because what's gonna happen is they're gonna demonize you, and once you show that you're not budging, and it comes to what you're saying to be true, they'll have to. They're not gonna apologize, but they're gonna be on your team. Because for years I said the same thing about Shakur. I said Shakur is a guy that has a ton of holes, but y'all are not able to see him because he hides them behind his style. The style of the opponent that he's facing is tailor made for. I said he doesn't move his head. I brought up tangible stuff, just like Tim did, right? Oh, you're a hater. Shakur's the next Mayweather. Shakur's this. Now they're getting up and walking out of Shakur fights. Now they're talking about Shakur's apologizing for winning now. Stuff I told him about 3 years ago. So I mean, being standing on your principle and being right when everybody else is wrong is the best feeling in the world.
It really is, and it's just it's that word hate. Like, you're a hater. You're right. It's so off base. Most of the time, when people are called haters, like you said, they just have a different opinion. Like if I was on here, what you just said about Shakur, I'm a Shakur fan, and I do see what you're talking about. I don't agree with everything you're talking about, but I'm not saying, man, I'm cutting you off, Scholar. You're a hater. You're just a Shakur hater. No, you're bringing up valid points. Everybody, the first word out of everyone's mouth is you're a hater. As soon as you say anything bad about a fighter they like, even if it's valid, even if it's just your opinion, like if you just say, oh, I think so-and-so is going to lose. Oh, you're a hater. It's the most, I can't think of a more, well, I probably could.
Dismissive. Because it's dismissive. They don't have to deal with anything logical you said.
Exactly. And it's such a misused word to say someone's a hater when, like, you just brought up valid, tangible points. Tim Bradley, talking about Brian Norman, brought up valid, tangible points. And it's also like coming from Tim Bradley, who is in the Hall of Fame. He was champ at 140 and 147. So you can disagree. It's okay to disagree, but you know what? I wonder, Scholar, like, do they even have, remember, and I was never on a debate team, but they used to have like debate teams. Do they even have that anymore? Or does everyone get called a hater because if you have a different opinion, like, you know how it is, you just get attacked?
Yeah, they don't know how to do that because number one, it takes having couth about yourself. You got to sit back and not be reactionary to another person's opinion, and they think everything is supposed to be fair. And what I tell them on my channel is, bro, you don't get how this goes. Like there some stuff is black and white. Like Martin Luther King wasn't like, well, you got to listen to the racists too. Like he had a position and he debated and articulated. That's what debate is. I can disagree with you. You can disagree. But we present our facts. We don't. When Dave Chappelle said the world in the future is everybody's gonna be holding hands and it's gonna be a rainbow, we're gonna be like the Care Bear. I feel like that's what we're moving towards. It's like, bro, you can respectfully disagree with everybody. You know what I mean? You should hear the conversations that I have with my uncles about politics or religion, but they're still my uncles and I love them. They don't have to agree with me. And that's what boxing has evolved. And you know what? It's hurting the fighters also because they have this big safety net and blanket of feelings from their fans. They're not being challenged. And that's why you see a Jared Anderson, right? Because I don't know if this is true. Ronnie Shields was on War Week Radio and he basically said that Jay Prince was against his fight. And so was his trainer. So he had to leave and go with Sugar Hill to make this fight happen. And I was like, the fact that his team is touting him as the next best American heavyweight, but also saying he's not ready for a guy that's not even a prospect. At this point, he's kind of dwindling towards a gatekeeper because he's getting up in age, and I don't think he's going to get a chance at a title. You know what I mean? He's going to be an upset person like he just did with Jared. They're saying he's not ready for that guy. Mike Tyson at 20 years old, bro, was fighting the champions of the entire world, and you're talking about a guy who's been a professional for a while, touted to be the next best heavyweight, and you're saying he's not ready? That is insane to me. Why even have a sport, man?
Wow, is that I never got in the weeds as to why he went with Sugar Hill. Is that's what you heard? That's why
Yeah,
he's
that's what
trainer?
Ronnie Shields was basically saying, that they were so against it that they refused to help him to his demise, I guess. So he had to go with Sugar Hill. I mean, but I don't think if he had Emmanuel Stewart in this corner, it would have made a difference. But majority of the game is mental, and we know he wasn't mentally right.
Right. You know what? And you said something too when you talk about debating, like you can there's a way to, like you said, couth and be respectful. And now everyone gets in their feelings as soon as you're criticized. Everyone gets defensive. And instead of, like, if you said to me, hey, George, you talk about this too much. You should talk about this. Today, the way people are, they'd be like, you know what, man, don't listen to my show. I'm blocking you. Forget it. Instead of saying, maybe you have a point. Maybe I am talking about X too much and not talking about Y enough. No, I feel like it's just lacking. No, people don't do that, and they want to attack as soon as you don't like. If I got on the show talking about whatever, Mike Tyson, and you said, "Oh man, every time Tyson, when he had a challenge, he failed." And if I yelled and screamed it and cursed you out instead of thinking and being respectful and being logical, it hurts everything. It's like a society thing. Because I have kids. I'm sure you have kids. I've always tried to tell my kids, if you believe in something, believe in it. Believe in it for the right reasons. And it's okay if people don't agree with you, but listen to them because you might learn something. That's the thing. Like, you might learn something.
You know what I learned, George, in being on YouTube in these spaces? People don't care about the sweet science. They don't care
No.
about the history. This is what I see out of them, because I had to study these people. Because at first I was boxing purists. I'm not talking about nothing else. You know what I mean? And I observed them, and I noticed that they would show up to a Shakur fight and say it's boring, right? But those same fans will show up to see a debate where they're arguing with words and there's no physical contact. And afterwards, they would be pleased. And it would be maybe 3 hours. Shakur's 45 minutes.
Right.
That debate would be 3 hours of arguing. And I'm like, these guys are not only toxic, but they're slow, because they would rather see words. Like, we all like violence. That's why we love boxing, right?
Right.
It's physical violence, right? It has a chess element to it, but at purest form is physical violence. They would rather see somebody fight with words. And I'm like, that is insane to me. But like I said, I've been studying them. So, and then I noticed this: people use clickbait titles, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
people will click the video, and they will stay on the channel and subscribe, even though the title has nothing to do with the video. So I was just like, boxing fans are dumb. I have to remember that in my channel. Like, I used to do just straight pure box. I don't do that anymore. I do everything, politics, right? All that stuff, because that's what they want to hear. They don't want to just hear straight boxing talk. So, you know what? I'm gonna give them what they want. I'm gonna give them the clickbait titles. If they tell me whatever they say I am, I'm gonna be exactly that. If they say, "Hey, man, you're racist," I'm like, you know what? I am racist. Matter of fact, in the meeting yesterday, you know what I mean? I'm gonna be whatever I need to be to piss them off, because I know that that's gonna make them watch me, because they don't have the intelligence enough to be like, there's a dial button. Just like back in the day with the TV, I don't have to tune in this stuff. Especially now, you have way more variety. Everybody got a YouTube channel. You can go where your biasness is real, but no, they're so emotionally connected and not used to challenges because they're so soft that if you trigger something in them, they're gonna keep pulling back up. They're gonna hate watch you. The people that are calling you haters are gonna pull up and hate watch you, and that's what I noticed with this community. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be exactly what I need to be.
I did a few shows when the whole Ryan Garcia debacle was happening. Everybody was, because they knew if they had Ryan Garcia title in the show, everybody was going to watch. And one of my most watched shows, I had, I didn't want to do it until I really had a reason to. So I brought on Randy Gordon, who used to be the commissioner of New York, and we talked about the whole debacle and the suspension and what's going to happen with Garcia. Just because I had Ryan Garcia in the title, I had it was like quadruple the amount of people in the live and people that viewed it overall. It's just it is what it is, man. It is a clickbait, and I look, I haven't done it yet, but you're right. The way to get views, there's a lot of I don't know. I don't want to bash YouTube because I'm on it, but that clickbait, man. If it's a salacious topic, people are going to want to. They would rather talk about if the topic of the show was, Ryan Garcia, another meltdown. Man, everybody's watching, or versus doing like a look back at Hagler Hearns, which I would in a minute I would take that. People are going to click on the Ryan Garcia because it's the clickbait, and it's it's clickbait, and it's what people are talking about. So I get what you're saying.
And you know what? I have this thing called vidIQ. It's supposed to help you with your channel and growth, right? vidIQ is a of algorithm, right? Brain much smarter than mine. It basically tells me the same thing. Like if I put a title out, it'll rate my title and be like, yeah, this is like 70%. But if you add in these couple words, it's bound to get a response out of the people that you're like. They literally tell you this stuff, and it's really crazy to me. It's like the algorithm even knows you guys are dumb. The algorithm is reinforcing boxing fans having low IQ. Like George, so today, right? I was scrolling through the feeds, and there was a guy who was talking boxing. He was from Philadelphia, and he basically told me that Terrence Crawford is a bum. I thought he was trolling. I was like, there is no way that this guy is serious. No, there's no way that that guy like cursed this guy with this like type of IQ. He told me Terrence Crawford was a bum. Errol Spence was overrated, and his resume is complete trash. Then he also told me that Victor Conte worked with Manny Pacquiao. And I was like, bro, there is so many information that you're spreading. I don't even know where to start to unpack it. I was like, why are you allowed to even speak about boxing? Like, he was like, well, I box. I was like, well, show me some footage. There was no footage of him. He couldn't even shadow box correctly. And I'm like, everybody has an opinion. That's the problem. Everybody has an opinion. Before, when Jim Lampley and Manuel Stewart and those guys was on HBO, people had their opinion, but they wasn't allowed to voice it. Not to the degree that of now. I remember they used to do like fan polls, like they would be like, go online and vote for if you want to see the rematch with Tyson stuff. But for the most part, it wasn't like it's connected now. Like now is real time responses, and you get to see how dumb people really are. And it's just like you just facepalm. I can't believe that there's people out there that IQ is this low when it comes to something that they think they're an expert on. Like you look at them and they're confidently saying this stuff as if it's fact, and you're like, bro, a simple Google search, Victor Conte never worked with Manny Pacquiao.
Well, you know what it's like what you said. Now there's YouTube, and everybody has a platform with social media. Everybody has a show. Everybody can instantaneously give their opinion. And when I was working for ProBox, we would do a show every day, and I would check the comments, and I really check the comments to try and get ideas for other shows. But you really see that there's a lot of people that I won't say everyone, but a lot of people just want to vent hate, and it doesn't matter. It's okay. I get not everyone's going to like what you do or like what you talk about, but there's just a lot of people who just want to spew hatred or spew nonsense or say things like Victor Conte worked with Pacquiao maybe to get you to talk. That's how it is. So far, I only talk boxing on my show, and I think I'm gonna keep it like that because look, I know I don't do it full time, but I know to make a show grow on YouTube, there's certain things you have to do. You can either buy views, there's a way to buy subscribers, or you just do it the hard way by grinding, or you could do it the other way by just talking about all the nonsense like Ryan Garcia. And I've I haven't done that yet.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I was making sure. I just turned my Wi-Fi off. I was gonna say what you're doing is a noble thing, and I respect it. But see, you also got skills. See, one thing that's dead in boxing that I think will be good for you is we used to have like the 10 greatest rounds in boxing, like documentaries where they interview because it's a lot of legacy still left people don't know about. Don Turner's still alive. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Like we got great trainers that we can interview about fights. Like, how did you feel with this Holyfield fight? How did you feel with that? That's what's missing in boxing. Because I remember being young, and they were teaching me the sport of boxing. I just didn't know it. I just love boxing so much. I was just in tune, but they were giving me some jewels then at a young age. That's what's missing in boxing. And because we're split, so we got the sensationalist side that they got short attention spans, and then we got the old school people. It's like the fix ain't there for the old school people.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that because I'm working on something now that I think I don't know if they're gonna make an announcement, but I'll just say that we're doing docs on certain fights, certain old HBO fights and fights from the USA Network. And we're going back and giving them some love. And I've been really all summer, I've been traveling and interviewing fighters. And I will say one of the fights that we're doing, and you probably saw it, but I think it was 1992 or 1993. Kevin Kelly and Troy Dorsey fought on the USA Network on Tuesday Night Fights. Great 12-round fight, and we're doing a doc on that. Doing a doc on
That's dope.
Jermaine Taylor and Kelly Pavlik won. I talked to Pavlik a month ago. We're trying to track Jermaine Taylor down, but man. Like you talk about trainers that are still alive. There's fighters that are still alive that are young and fights that haven't had a shine on them, and a lot of people won't know about Kevin Kelly and Troy Dorsey, and then they're going to see this and realize what a great fight that was. Or Tim Bradley and Ruslan Provodnikov, fights like that people may have forgotten, and you'll hear the fighters and the trainers talk about it. So that's the kind of stuff really that like I'm all in on that kind of stuff. And when you asked me what I was doing, I was like working, really doing doing interviews. At some point, this company is going to announce the series that they're doing, but I'm with you. Like there's guys like Don Turner. There's so many guys that boxing fans can learn from, and there's stories, there's fights that people don't know about. I love the story because that's what I did. I was a producer, and I did the story aspect of fighters, and that's why my favorite thing. That's why I put the link in, because I want people to come in. I love interviewing people in boxing. I love the stories, and all I can say is when we do start like producing these docs and put them out, I know you're gonna love them, and hopefully, it's going to give some love back to some of those fighters and some of the old fights that people forgot about. Like we're trying to do one on James Kirkland and Alfredo Angulo, and that was a war. That was like people forget that, like fights like that. James Kirkland at one point he was supposed to be the next best thing. It didn't quite work out, but I'm with you. I love the stories, and that's really what I like to focus on.
There's nothing worse, George. I remember this, and this is why I had to turn into Morton Downey on him. You remember Morton Downey show?
Oh yeah.
That's why I had to turn into Morton Downey on him. I used to put countless hours, George, into my videos, only to see like 50 views, 100 views, and I'm like, bro, this is insane. I'm putting a lot of effort into the thing that they say that they love, but they don't really love boxing. A prime example of that is Wednesdays when Pro Box come on. They won't even the big channels won't even talk about the fights. And it's like, bro, we thought you loved boxing. This is a boxing event. You may say, hey, it's not the star-studded event, but hey, when you go to a restaurant, they give you breadsticks and wine before you get the main course. It's something to keep people talking about boxing, Meanwhile, until we get the main events, but they won't even mention it because they only care about sensationalism. That's what boxing fans do. So I am Morton Downey. You know what I mean? Hey, you fight. You know what I mean? Give him. Jerry Springer was #1 in America, not because of his lack of viewership.
Hey, I got a Jerry Springer story. Well, not really a story with Jerry. I know a guy who was a cameraman on his show, and I went to a taping, and Jerry Springer, he would do like, man, I don't know, because I'm in Connecticut right now, and his studio, they still do shows there, was in Stamford. So I went to a Jerry Springer taping, and for each show, he would do, I don't know, 2, 4, 6, like 6 to 8 shows a day. And for each show, they would swap out the audience. But I got to stay, and I saw like 3 or 4 shows. Jerry Springer would come out before they started to shoot. He would like warm the crowd up. Like, the guy would be out there, he'd be like, all right, everyone, get amped up. Gonna bring Jerry out before the show starts. He's gonna talk to you guys, and then we're gonna shoot. So Jerry would come out, and he would like warm the crowd up. He'd walk around and tell jokes and like do it was almost like a little monologue, and then they'd start the show. I was like, wow, that was he was pretty funny. So that crowd would leave, the next crowd would come in, and he would do the same exact monologue, like word for word for every single audience, but it was a brand new audience in there, so they ate it up. But
I'd never heard. That's crazy.
But yeah, man, the late Jerry Springer. But I went to, all right, last Jerry Springer thing. So I'm sitting next to this older woman who's by herself, and I was by myself. So she sits down and she says, have you ever been to one of these? I said, no, I haven't. She said, my grandson got me this ticket because he thought I would like it. And I said, we were in like the second row. I said, well, have you ever seen a Jerry Springer show? She said, no, I've heard of him, but I think he does kind of a crazy show. I said, okay, I'm going to protect you during this show because sometimes there's some nudity and sometimes people fight. So nothing happened on that show, but this poor lady had no idea like what the Jerry Springer show was. And she was probably like 70, real little lady. But anyway, I protected her and she didn't get hurt. So yeah, man, that's all the Jerry Springer.
That is golden. That's gold because it's like whenever my friend went to go see Sausage Party, he thought it was a children's movie. Come to find out, like it absolutely is a children. That is hilarious, though. That is. But Brother George, have you learned nothing? I told you we're on YouTube now. Your Jerry Springer story got to be. So I meet this guy. You know what I mean? And it turns out he used to be a woman. That's what you gotta spice it up just a little bit. We're on YouTube, man.
Yeah, I know. We're on YouTube. Listen, I remember like when we were kids, like I would have died to have a show like this. If I was 10 years old, I would, like it's like what Max Kellerman did before the internet. Max Kellerman had a show in New York, on cable. He had his own boxing show before this YouTube. Now it's the beauty and the curse. Everybody can have a channel. It doesn't mean, and it sounds big, like to say, oh, I've got my own channel. But today it's not that big. Like 20 years ago, if you said I had a channel, that was big, or your own show. Now it's the beauty and the curse because 24 hours a day you can go on YouTube and see people do live shows, and some are good, some are bad, some are really bad, some are horrible. I see some of these boxing shows and there'll be like 8 to 10 people at a time talking, and it's no faces, and it's everybody yelling at each other, and they call it a panel. And today the topic is, Canelo versus Berlanga, and it's everybody screaming and yelling, and they call it a show. And
George, you ain't hip. Hey man, I could be. Look, I ain't that hip neither, but I could be your guide to the metaverse on YouTube, brother. So they call that free smoke. So, and I had to, George, I done been probably producing content maybe consistently maybe 2 years, but I had a channel where I did videos every now and then, but I wasn't consistent with. So this stuff was culture shock for me. I had to get adjusted to boxing fans being slow, like being sensational, like all that stuff was culture shock to me because I was expecting something completely different. But when they say free smoke, they basically will have a topic like that, and they will let the people on the panel say anything and threaten to pull up on each other and do all this other stuff. And here's the most shocking part about it: you will find actual people, like credible people, Brian Norman Sr. on these shows. Bill Haney has been on these shows, and I'm
Yeah.
just thinking, like, what in the world? This is crazy. Look, we talking about Springer. It's equivalent to Mike Tyson making a Springer appearance at the top of his game.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I can't argue with that. Yeah, it's a different, I mean, like I said, everyone has a channel. Everyone has a and yeah, it's just when I see 10 people and you don't like I said, you don't see a face and everybody's screaming. But I don't know, man. I guess people I'll never do anything like that, but I guess people watch that stuff. Like you tell me.
They definitely they eat it. This is what I'm saying. It'll be a show like that, George, on the night of uh a pro box event. You know what I mean? A good one too. And they will all tune in to the yelling match versus the fighting. And it's just like you can't possibly love boxing like you say you love boxing if you're tuning in to see fairy tale stuff versus real physical violence. You're seeing somebody get decked and knocked out and removed from their consciousness versus somebody threatening to do it. But you got to remember this, George. Wrestling is still around while UFC is the real version of wrestling. People like the show. They like the theater of it. They like to see people threat violence that they're never going to do. Because that's all wrestling was, threatening violence that they never was going to carry out. And these people are now adults. You know what I mean? I would tell people this. When you look into the audience of wrestling, you would imagine that it would be a bunch of kids, you know what I mean, that believe in fairy tales. But it would be adults there with signs. The Rock is the GOAT and Rock is
Oh
this.
yeah.
So adults love it more than kids. So yeah, you'll never find a shortage of an adult that likes to see a good verbal spar. So yes, they love it. They eat it up, George. Like
But go ahead.
a lot of times I'll allow it on my show. I don't let it get crazy to where it's threatening. Because then I'm like, okay, I get a passionate argument, but we're not gonna do this threatening stuff. That's insane.
Well, yeah, see, but that's the thing. I'm all for like and you want to call it an argument or a debate. I'm all for that. But it turns into literally screaming at each other and you have no idea who's saying what and it's not you don't even know whose side people are on. It's literally like screaming and dropping F bombs and you can't even follow it. So I'm all for like a debate or like or an argument if it's entertaining. But I don't know, man. I mean, you watch more of it than me, and people watch that stuff. Maybe I should have 15 people on, and everybody screams, and more people will watch. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't do that.
Can you hear
I
me?
just Yep, I got you.
Oh wow, StreamYard is updating. I had a phone call and it sent me right back in. Hey, shout out to StreamYard for updating. But now what you're doing is good. We need this. We need boxing because it's very rare. And this is another thing we got to realize too, as well, right? We got to be realistic about this. Boxing and every other sport is going to take a back seat right now because football's starting up. And football is seasonal like the McRib at McDonald's, right? Everybody plays a back seat to them because there's anticipation to build up for the year. It just is what it is, right? So
By the way,
numbers are
I never had a McRib.
wow, really?
I never had. But anyway, go ahead with what you were saying.
George, you'll never know what it's like to eat fake meat and pretend that it's real.
Right,
Nah,
right,
it's all right. I mean, it ain't nothing new. McDonald's just is good at marketing. They know if they take it away every year and then re-announce it,
right,
everybody
right,
will anticipate it just like they do with football, you know?
right.
So everybody's for to play a backseat to football, boxing included. Boxing's no different. UFC, everybody, right? And this is what I would tell content creators because they would ask me for advice, and I would tell them, look, bro, if you're gonna do a show every day, you have to realize that, we sensationalism sells, right?
Yep.
So everything is built around Ryan Garcia's positive tests because that's how you're gonna grab them, right? but there's not gonna be events like that happening all the time. So
Right.
what are you gonna do if those events are absent? You're gonna have to gin up what everything's breaking news, breaking news. Jared Ernest, you get what I'm saying? So in order to prevent being that, you got to do one or two things. Talk about other things other than boxing. That way you fill the void, or just don't do your show every day because you're gonna run out of content. If you just
Right.
take notes throughout the week and then do a weekly wrap up, you'll be fine. But if you do a show every day, you're gonna be faced with that type of problem because nothing exciting is gonna happen. Like right now, the most exciting thing is Brian Norman and Boots, and I don't even think that fight's gonna happen. I think they're both
Right.
pump faking. I think that Brian Norman has said, I remember watching an interview. Now, look, my memory's good, but I mean, I am human. I could be wrong. You know, memory does fail us at times, right? But I remember him saying this specifically. The fight that he had, his last fight where he upset the guy, there was a
Right.
fight before that, and he got dropped.
Yep.
And after the fight, his father did an interview, and they asked about Boots, and he was like, Boots is too damn big, and he just busted out laughing. And he was like, we're not trying to fight him, And I remember putting in the chat, like, bro, y'all are the champ at 47. So you mean to tell me if you get the belt, you're going to avoid fighting Boots or being undisputed? He never answered that question. But now they have the belt and they're saying that Boots is calling their name, so they're entertaining the fight. But then he also said he wants the fight to build up, to be really, really big, like what Bud and Spence was. It's like, brother, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. It's never going to get to that.
Right.
Y'all going to sit there and try to let it marinate and end up like Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder, where
Exactly.
it never comes to fruition. Like,
Yep.
nah, it's never going to be that big with y'all two. Y'all are not that caliber, in my personal opinion. Somebody might think they is, but I'm one of the ones that think that, no, it's not. It's completely two different fighters. Those guys
I'm with you.
had cleaned out everybody. It was just them left, and they were just looking. Godzilla and King Kong beat up all the monsters, and were just looking at each other. And
Let's
everybody
see it.
wanted to know who was going to win. That's not the
Right.
case with them. Like Stanionis is still there. You know what I mean? Lingering around. No, I don't think that's what it is. But if they are pump faking and acting like they want the fight to happen and try to build it, I think it's a horrible strategy. But I don't think we're going to get the fight. Like them saying we accepted the offer, but we counter offer. Well, then you didn't accept the offer.
Right.
You can't accept and counter at the same time.
You're right. I don't think it's going to happen either, unfortunately. I would love for it to happen, but I'm with you. I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't. And it's too bad because the 147 it's not what it was, a few years ago. I mean, Bud and Spence are gone. Danny Garcia's gone. A lot of these guys are gone now. Keith Thurman is gone. There's not a lot of depth at 147, and there is. So I think the goal, like Boots' goal, you want to have all the belts. You want to be undisputed. There isn't.
And you know what? I got
Yeah.
called recently a hater for this, Georgia, but I told the truth. I said, look, Boots to me was waiting around for this very scenario that's happened. That's ideal for him. I said he said where Bud was his mandatory, where he could have forced Bud a fight with Bud by being his mandatory, but he elected to get out of that ranking and go into where Spence was. And then Bozy Ennis kind of said the silent part out loud. He essentially said that, a fight of this magnitude with Bud and Spence is going to have a rematch. We all know that the IBF strips fighters because they claim that they don't honor rematches, even though they did Anthony Joshua and Usyk. You know what I mean?
Right.
I guess it depends on the price, but they don't honor rematches according to them. So if Errol Spence and Bud have a rematch, somebody's going to get stripped. And Bozy knew that. And he said it. I have a clip of him saying this very thing. I did a whole thing with as Bud ducking Boots, and I was basically saying how this is insane that we're even talking about this. Like, no, he absolutely is not ducking him. And if Boots had wanted that fight, he could have absolutely made that fight happen. But Boots wanted exactly what the ideal situation that he has, which is all the people at 47, including Ortiz, has moved up to 54. 54 is the most competitive division in boxing, hands down.
Yep.
So you got the most competitive division, and then under it you got just maybe him, Stanionis, and Junior. And a lot of people would think Junior's too green to beat him. And Stanionis, stylistically, he beats Stanionis. Stanionis has
Agreed.
a Sonny Liston like jab, right? And he can knock you out with the jab. Make no mistake about it. But in one of his fights, he showed me a weakness that I know he can't beat Boots with. When he was boxing his opponent switched southpaw and took his jab away, and he looked basic. And I'm like, Boots can switch. There's no way he beats Boots. From that point on, I was like, I don't even want to see him fight Boots. But if using the eye test, Boots' path to undisputed looks like it's not a lot of resistance there. He's better than all the people that have belts there. So it's very realistic that he can get undisputed. So I told somebody this when they called me a hater for saying this about Boots. I said, if Boots goes up to 54, which is the most competitive division in boxing, and beats Fandora, knocks Fandora out, knocks him silly, that win will give him more credibility than getting undisputed at 47 because of competition.
Yep. Well, that's it. We want to see competitive fights. And I agree. Like at 147, on paper at least, it doesn't look like there's a super competitive fight for Boots. I mean, maybe Norman. I don't think so. But yeah, if he moved up to 154 and beat somebody like Fundora or those guys at 54, but you know what? Just fight consistently. That's what I wish more guys would do. Fight consistently. Stop fighting once a year or twice a year. That's what it's turned into for the most part. It's rare now. When a guy fights, when Canelo had those 4 fights in a year, like people lost their minds. Anthony Joshua's been active. People are like, oh my God, I can't believe he's fighting so much. But you're better when you're active.
Boxing fans will complain about something only to show up, like the events, right? I don't want to see Canelo versus Berlanga, so they're going to complain about it, right? They're going to show up to a fight that they say they don't want to see, only to complain about it some more. So they complain that they don't want to see it, only to see it to complain, which I don't understand that logic. But they're going to do that. Watch. They're going to do that with Berlanga. And here's the catch-22 with that. You can't say, I want to see a guy fight frequently. Not you personally. I'm talking about the boxing fans.
Right.
And then when he's fighting, because Canelo just fought Munguia not that long ago. And now he's fighting Berlanga. So if he fights and he's active, it's not going to be killer after killer.
Right.
He's not Hagler, and this ain't the 80s. He's not going to fight killer after killer. So it's like, we have to put up with these type of fights if we want to see him fight frequently. Although we want the Benavidez fight, I mean, I do like that he is being active.
Right. I agree. You remember when champions would fight non-title fights? Like I remember Larry Holmes fighting. He fought a guy named, I was a kid, but it might even have been a title. Actually, I think it was a title fight. But champions would fight non-title fights, or like you said, just to be active. Like Larry Holmes fought a guy named Scott Frank, who I don't know how he was ranked, but it was just to stay busy so he could get a bigger fight. Now fighters don't do that. They just say, I'm going to be inactive and I'm going to wait to get a big fight. You know, like with Bud, it wasn't Bud's fault because he was supposed to have the rematch with Spence. But it was such a shame that Bud has the fight of his career, destroys Spence. He's getting love from everywhere. You see him doing talk shows and like real big talk shows, and he's like a hero in the sport. And then he goes a whole year without fighting. Now, it wasn't his fault because he was supposed to have the rematch with Spence. But inactivity, every fighter will tell you, inactivity is bad for you. And when guys have been off for a long time, they'll try to say, oh, well, I'm recharged now. Most of the time, it's still going to hurt you. Being inactive, like Danny Garcia, it's going to hurt him being inactive. The only reason why it won't hurt him as much is because in Lara, he's fighting a guy that's 76 years old. So his inactivity won't hurt quite as much. But I wish guys would stay more active, but that's not how it is now. It just isn't.
Hey, that is hilarious. 176. You should have had you got to add the 100 to it.
Right. But you know what? It might be true because the Cuban fighters, man, like I feel like you can legit add like 5, 6, 7, 8 years onto their age. You don't know.
Right. They're finding Cuban fighters they're resurrecting them out of coffins, bro. They get a priest to resurrect them out of coffins and then give them a fake birth certificate when they get to America and they box at 176 years old.
It's crazy.
You know something that you said? I seen an interview with Bud. And look, I'm the biggest Bud fan in the world, but I mean, I feel like something that's slow, it's my pet peeve. I don't have a bunch of them, but when you say slow stuff, it just bothers me. Bud said this, right? Bud said that, when he was doing Andre Ward's interview, he said, a lot of people don't know this, but I'm the reason why the fight happened with Spence. Okay, go on, Bud, elaborate. He basically said that he went to Spence and told Spence, look at what's in your contract. They're not telling you everything. Do you know about this, this, and that? And he said Spence went and looked and was like, Bud, you're right. And I'm like, okay, here's the cringe moment of it. When you look at how it played out for Bud's career, Bud lost a year of his career for something that he said he was responsible for. So you told him to look at the contract, but you didn't factor in that they could hold up your career. And then not even think about this. If Bud goes and gets a belt and tries to get undisputed at 54, Al Heyman's still going to be in the way with Spence and Fendora.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. And also Bud, I keep forgetting, is he 36 or 37?
I don't know his exact age.
But
I just know he's closer to 40 than he is. He's closer to 40 than he is 35. You know, Americans, we round up, especially in boxing years.
Right. And he lost the whole year, and that didn't help him. Kegi says he's nearly 37, so he lost the whole year of his career. Again, I mean, not all his fault, but he lost a year when it was good because I'm a Bud. I like Bud and Spence, but it was good to see Crawford getting so much respect, and rightfully so, for the fight he had against Spence. And then he goes a year, and you don't get that year back. You don't get that time back. Boxing, it seems like they're fighting well in their later years now, but still, you only have so many years as a fighter, so many years in your prime anyway. Unless you're Floyd Mayweather and you just fight forever. Floyd's 47 and he's still having exhibitions. So, but the inactivity, it's not good. And fighters doesn't matter what we say. Fighters tell you, listen to fighters' interviews. They'll all tell you, they'll all say, even if as they reflect on their career, I was better when I was active. And it just makes sense. But that's just not the way of boxing now, for the most part. And when it is, and like I said, when Canelo had the 4 fights in a year, and Joshua, everyone, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe this. But it used to be like that all the time. Duran and all those guys, they would fight non-title fights all the time just to stay active, but different day.
What's crazy is we'll probably never see that again. Like we happy with crumbs, like you said, that was normal back in those days. And it's just it's I don't know, it does the fans a disservice. Now, I'm not gonna lie about this. So I try to keep it down the middle on certain topics, right? So with His Excellency, I always basically said when he first came in the sport, he's gonna take it over. The sport is designed for this type of thing to happen. You know what I mean? Whether you say it's by design or not, it's this it is what it is. You know what I mean? In other words, it's designed for a guy with a bunch of money to say, hey, you guys that value money so much, I'm gonna make you. Eddie Hearns and Frank Warren hadn't even did business together, and they were in each other's backyard. And His Excellency came with his wallet and just set it on their backs, and they were like, you know what? Why are we fighting? Let's be friends. So that guy, to me, he could potentially save boxing by getting him to fight frequently, because he be putting them right back in the ring after a loss.
You know what? I hear what you're saying, but I feel like Turkey, I don't know if I'm wrong or right, but this is just how I feel. He's starting to show like a bully mentality. If you're not all on board, he's banished Tim Tszyu supposedly, and because Tszyu didn't want to fall in line to what he wanted, he's starting to
absolutely
mock guys, and the hypocrisy of it. Money rules everything, and boxing is full of shit for putting that guy in the Las Vegas Boxing Hall of Fame. They put Turkey in the Hall of Fame, and it's a joke. it's a joke because they
I
did
didn't
it
know that they
because
did that. That's
he's in the
crazy.
Hall of Fame, and it's a joke because the guy's been around for like 5 minutes, and they put him in the Hall of Fame. Why? Because that Hall of Fame, they want some notoriety. They hope that maybe Turkey will, I don't know, donate to
Wow.
them or something.
Oh,
It's a joke, and
that
people
is
have, like, I work for
insane.
ProBox. I work for ProBox, and the owner, and it's a business. We were doing certain shows, catering, watching what we said, catering to having certain people on to talk positively about Turkey, which really almost all the talk is positive, but because they wanted some of that Turkey money, they wanted some of that Saudi money. So, money rules boxing. We know money rules almost everything, but Turkey's starting to show this kind of bully mentality. We'll see how long that goes, how it serves him, but it's just it really, I didn't get on a soapbox about
It's
it and do a show,
funny
but when he
that
gets put in the Hall of Fame, like, don't put this guy in the Hall of Fame. No Hall of Fame, no
it's funny
boxing Hall
that
of
you
Fame.
said that. Funny that you said that, George, because I did a whole piece on this, and I talked about how I don't like that Canelo's not fighting Benavidez, but I like the fact that he was standing up to the bully in a sense, because it's like, look, man, I'm as tribal as anybody in America, right? But when the Olympics come, we all USA. This guy hasn't even been in boxing for 5 minutes, and
Right.
everybody is rolling out the red carpet for him, and he's disrespecting the fighters that we say that we love, and it's okay. Like, boxing is the only sport where the mice rule and the lions are slave to the mice, and we all have a problem with that. So why would we not have a problem with Turkey coming over, telling Canelo, if you're smart, you're gonna take what I offer you? And it's like, bro, what? If
Yeah.
he's smart. So what makes him dumb for not taking your money? If you say that boxing is about making the best competitive fights and stuff like that, they can only do that through you. Boxing can only survive through you, is what you're saying.
Right.
That is insane.
Right. Right. So I don't know, man. Like that, the whole Hall of Fame thing just again, I wasn't like doing shows and doing cartwheels and screaming, but they put him in the Las Vegas Hall of Fame, and he's literally been around boxing for, I don't know, a year, maybe not even two, maybe
It's
two.
that.
I don't know, but they know that he's got money, and all these like pro box, they know he's got money, and
That is,
everybody
you know
wants
what?
to get some of that money.
You know what, George? It's the old joke. Sleep me for $1. Ew, no. What about $1 million? Well,
Yeah,
okay, I
well,
understand what you are. Now we're negotiating price. It's sickening. Because I said this on air. And look, granted, people are human beings, but I told him I was kind of disgusted at Dana White. Turkey's grabbing his hand and treating him like a child, bro. Bro, there is no way. Look, every culture has their own thing, right? Like what they're willing to do. I would have told Turkey, like, look, Turkey, I understand you got money, brother. You know what I mean? And look, I like making money, but there's no amount of money that you can have to make me look like your kid, to
right.
make me look less than you, because I'm not. You put your pants leg on one leg at a time, and you're a religious person. Allah's supposed to be above everybody, not Turkey. So it's like, I feel like he's testing a lot of things about America, about boxing. It's like, what do you have does everybody have a price? And that's what he's testing. Does everybody
Yeah.
have a price? Because some people say, hey, I understand what the fighters are doing. This and that. But I mean, I feel like you can give me money to do my job, but that's where I draw the line. You're not gonna, you can't tell me to do stuff that's not related to my job. You can't say, hey man, you came in smelling like sex. Stop having sex with your wife. Like, what? If they can
Right.
get you to do anything, they will get you to do anything. And I've just never subscribed to that. Money is, there's no ATMs in heaven. There's none. I've checked.
Yeah, but most people don't think. I mean, I shouldn't say most people. There are a lot of people who don't think about heaven. They think about just the here and now. And I wonder, as far everything I've seen with Saudi, they seem to have a long-term commitment to the sport. But this money they're throwing around, if you know anything about that country, this is nothing for them. The amount of money that they're investing in boxing. What if you know, in a month, Turkey just said, "Listen, it's been a great year. We love doing it, but we're getting out of the sport." Then what? Now you got all these fighters who, rightly so, everyone wants to make the most amount of money they can. If that Saudi money just disappeared, then what happens with boxing? You know,
Oh,
what happens?
he'll have it by the death grip. They could come back and sell themselves for less than what they sold themselves before. No, please don't leave Turkey. Okay, we'll take just $1 million this time. Please, you know what I mean? Yeah, boxing's at his mercy because he has the one thing that they value the most. Look, I'm not saying Turkey is the devil or anything, but everybody's seen those movies where the angel's on the shoulder and the devil's on the other side. I look at it like Turkey is everything that could tempt you and get you to go against your morals and your characters. If there was a real life devil, he probably would be rich as shit and have endless amounts of money, right? And it's like he's gonna test a lot of people because I've seen people convert to being a Muslim to get a turkey bag, and I think that is crazy.
Wow. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. It's just that oil money and I know some people who have gone over there to work shows and seen how these people live. It's an incredible amount of money that he's offering fighters and that fighters are getting paid. But again, it's not that much money for them. So they talked about long term and he wants to take over the sport. He wants to work with everyone. That's all noble, but you know, I wouldn't be shocked if at some point they just said, "Look, our boxing experiment is over," and then what happens? I mean, boxing always adapts; it doesn't go away. It's not going to die. But if that money goes away, it's going to hurt a lot of fighters, a lot of people. Period. But we'll see. I'm glad. I'm with you. I just want to see good fights, and I want to see the best fighters fight each other. And he is making good fights. I'll give him that credit. He's not doing, you know, Jake Paul against whoever. He doesn't want to do that. He wants to do real legit fights, and I love that. But that, you know, we'll see if it's long term. That's good. I'm glad he's making real fights. I just hope, you know, that he doesn't turn into this bully and starts to banish.
Oh, he's already a bully. You notice one thing I noticed about him?
Yeah.
When Tank asked for 2 Ferraris, he could buy those 2 Ferraris, but he was offended that Tank would even ask him for it. It's like, bro, you lead with money. What else would they ask you for? Your phone number? Like what? Like what? So, but yeah, when people ask him for stuff, he gets mad. When Canelo asked him for 150 million, he got mad. And look, I was really surprised at this, right? Because Canelo responded, and I was actually proud of his response. His response was, "I don't need you. I make good money in boxing without you. I've been doing I put myself in this position without you. Like I don't need you." I loved it. But then afterwards, he was like, "You know what?" He blamed Eddie Hearns for their interaction, which I don't even understand how you do that. And he said he'll be in contact with him after the fight. And I'm like, Canelo, this man said you were scared of Bud Crawford. He said that you were ducking Benavidez. He was really disrespectful to be a non-fighter. And you know what's crazy? If this was a person that was commentating, Timothy Bradley, Hall of Famer, they would ask him, what is his credentials to be talking to fighters like this? His only credential is being rich. And they love it. They're like, yeah, you know, Canelo, you got to bend the knee.
Yeah, this is not. I mean, this is only $1, but I was just doing this to illustrate your point. Yeah, he's got money, and that gives him power. And I will keep saying, I'm glad he's not doing joke fights or gimmick fights. He's doing real fights. He seems to know about the history, and he seems to respect the history. And those are all the things I like that he's doing. But when you start to say, oh, well, you talk like you said, he gets mad at you, and he like, is he going to start banishing fighters because they don't fall in line to his money? We'll see.
You know what? If he's all about making the big fights, the Tim Tszyu versus Fandora rematch was pretty big. As a matter of fact, I can remember. What's the guy's manager's name? He's really famous. For Fandora.
Why
am I having a brain fart?
I know exactly. He's been around forever. I know who you mean.
Golly, bro, I can't remember this. So that guy, right? he basically said that Tim Tszyu and his people don't need to sue him because his word is bond. He's going to honor the rematch. He's been in the business for a long time. He gave a lot of promises, but they never talked about it again. The belts, like the sanctioning body, nobody talked about it. I'm like, what the hell? Like, what happened with this? Now it makes sense. Turkey got involved. Like they turned their back on Tim Tszyu because him and Turkey had a disagreement. It's like, bro, like, do y'all not see where this could be problematic? Like, we already get side of the street talk and blackball talk with promotional companies that we have competing with each other. Imagine everybody under one umbrella. I always say this, George, and this is what I mean. You know the saying, we learn from history what we don't learn from history?
Right.
Customato fought against the mob for this very reason. He didn't think boxing should be controlled by one entity, right?
Yep.
The fans are fighting to get it back controlled by one entity. And I just facepalm like, and if we get back to that, they're going to complain that we need to be free again. Because like I say, boxing fans don't know how to be pleased. They're like that Prince song. Remember, he just like his mother. Doves cry.
Right.
That's boxing fans.
Yeah. That's like people, period. People are never satisfied.
Samson, that's it. Samson.
Letkowitz. Yeah. Who's been around forever. I mean, Samson's been around forever. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. They certainly have the money to. They have the money to make whatever fight they want. It's up to the fighters to accept it. Most will. We'll see. All I can say, we'll see. But my whole point with this Hall of Fame thing is just stop. Like, it's kind of disgusting that you're doing that they'll do that. It demeans. We all know Hall of Fame. A lot of the Hall of Fames are kind of jokes anyway. But
yeah, popularity contest.
Like to have like Tim Bradley got into the Las Vegas Boxing Hall of Fame this year as well, and Turkey is part of the class of 2024. Like stop. And one thing, I didn't see the whole show, but it was during the Bud show that they announced that Turkey was going to the Hall of Fame. And at one point, because I was going from LA to Vegas, so at one point I'm watching the show, weren't they giving away a car?
Oh, like, bro, that looked so scripted. It looked so scripted. I didn't even believe it.
It was like
the guy
a game
was not
show.
Excited. He wasn't excited at all. And I'm like, wait a minute. What, bro? You just want a new car. You're not excited at all? He was just like normal. They didn't give him no speech or nothing. Bro, if I want a new car, bro, I'm not going to lie, bro. Probably would be ecstatic, bro. I probably would have been like remember the Price is Right and all those shows? I'm going to Disneyland. That's what have been my response. I'm going to Disneyland.
But I was like, what am I watching? Am I watching a game show or am I what? And then Eminem did his set, and then I was I watched the first couple rounds, then I was on a plane. But I was like, man, what am I watching? We'll see.
You know what you were witnessing? You were witnessing people, him being a walking pot of gold, and everybody trying to be the rainbow right up under him, because they didn't even want to like. He's coming over as an amateur trying to make events, and he's just throwing money at the events. You know what I mean? He's just trying to. We shouldn't be midnight getting into the main event because we had an Eminem concert. Like, he's doing it all wrong, but nobody's gonna tell him this because everybody's kissing his butt because they want to get some of that money.
Right.
But it's like he's an amateur really in his boxing thing. He doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. He's gonna have to learn his bumps and bruises, but he has the money to compensate for that. Like, a loss to him wouldn't be a regular loss to somebody that's just starting out as a promoter or whatever, but he's gonna do it. But the thing is, nobody's gonna correct him, so he's never gonna fix it. We're gonna keep getting these type of shows. That show was awful to me. I felt like that, like the Eminem stuff, all that stuff was like, bro, we all love Eminem. Nobody cares. Let's get to the main event.
Right, please. Especially if you're on the East Coast, like, and it's like 2 a.m. when this stuff is going on. Paulie Malignaggi would always say, talking about the Saudis, he'd say, because Paulie, of course, is Italian. He'd say, and I might mispronounce the word, he'd say, he needs a good consigliere on his team. He needs consigliere, who we know he's like the guy that he was like Tony Soprano's right-hand man, Silvio or whatever. He's the guy that gives the advice. And Paulie would say that's what he needs. I don't know. I'm sure he has that in theory, whether or not he listens. But look at this by Keggy. Keggy said, to be fair, all businesses lose millions and sometimes billions before they become profitable. This is a whole different venture. They're not. I'm sure they want to make money. They don't care if they're profitable. the money that they're throwing is like it's like this dollar. A dollar, I respect a dollar, but it's not a lot of money. The money that they're throwing at these fights, it's like the equivalent of a dollar. It's something that most people can't comprehend. So they're not spending money to become profitable. They're profitable already, no matter what they lose in the sport. So will he get frustrated if he can't take over the sport, and will he bail, or will he ostracize? Will he have like a league with only his fighters, and if you don't play out?
I agree. I agree. That's a good assessment. I look at it like this. It was beyond my pay grade. You know what I mean? Turkey. Like
Right.
if I could control stuff like that in boxing, you know what I mean, we'd be getting, like you said, fights every week. You know what I mean? Cancer would be ice cream if I had that much power. But he was coming, and I said, everybody might as well just buckle up and say what they was when Turkey took over the entire sport, because the boxing was geared for a person like that to come in and make stuff happen, because everything's so money driven, everybody's so money hungry, and it showed. Not just the fighters, you know what I mean? I understand the fighters looking for the biggest paydays. Like, they're the ones taking the punches, but the
Right.
promoters is diving at his feet. Like, he is the real life Hakeem. They're throwing rose petals at his feet, diving at him. Like it just, the shit is sickening with it to a certain degree. Like, God damn, nobody. I get the sense that nobody's themselves around him. They're all trying to appease him. Like, even whenever he goes up ringside and he shakes their hand, they smile from ear to ear, and they're just like waiting for the moment to be over so they can be themselves. They're not relaxed.
Right. Right. I'm very curious to see how it plays out, but I do I do like the fact that he's making real fights, because you imagine what he could be doing with that money. He could be having just joke fights all the time, and nonsensical fights. But he's when you hear him talk about the sport, he really does seem to respect it. That's why it bothers me when I see like the bully side come out, because he does seem to respect the past. He brings up past fighters, and he's got respect. It seemingly. So I'm curious. How well, we will see how it plays out. If he wants to buy it. Oh man, I'm talking about Turkey. I just phased out for a second. Can you hear me?
I thought that was my phone. I can hear you now.
No, it was on my man. Maybe I'm talking about Turkey too much.
Oh man, he didn't hit the
All of a
kill
sudden,
switch.
now watch. When I do a show tomorrow and I'm praising Turkey and I've got like a suit on, then you'll know he got to me too. And when I'm doing a Turkey show every single day, um, uh-oh.
Oh
Uh-oh.
man, a whole lot of glitching
Well,
going on.
maybe this will keep me going, and I'm about to end this. But Kegi says Turkey is putting on great fights, and that's all that matters. That's really,
Is
for the
it?
most part,
Is it
like you want
because
to see great fights.
because I mean, you can't have it both ways. There's pros and cons to everything, right? Don
Yeah.
King was putting together great cards, but the fighters were retiring with no money and their brains shook, right? So,
Right.
have to have a trade off. So we're saying is we can only judge the present by the history of boxing, and it's just alarming that a guy could be here and this confident. You know what I mean? He's an amateur. Make no mistake about it. He's an amateur at matchmaking, and amateur at anything. And his only real credential is money. And it's like, okay, we are getting exciting fights, but what, like George said, what if he pulls out? What if he says, you know what? I lost a lot of money. I'm done with this boxing thing. It was my plaything. Because it makes no sense for him to get into boxing other than either he really loves it or it's his plaything, or both. Both could be true. So it's
Right.
like, what if he just gets tired of it? So we're getting the good fights now, but then boxing will be left worse than whenever he got to it. So that's
That's
all
the
we're doing,
thing.
is trying to get y'all to let y'all cerebellum rotate a little bit. Don't be fooled by the bells and whistles.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if like you got to have a contingency plans. Like you have to think, what if he did pull out? Would it hurt boxing? Or like if he just said tomorrow I'm done, would ultimately did he hurt boxing or help boxing? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But he is getting a resume though now. He is in the Hall of Fame in Las Vegas. So he's a Hall of Fame, whatever you want to call him, promoter, whatever he is. I don't even know if he's a promoter, whatever he is now, thanks to Las Vegas, he is a Hall of Famer. So there you
That
go.
is insane because we've seen fighters who are deserving to be in the Hall of Fame not get in there. And the argument that we would make is like, wait a minute, y'all put Rocky Balboa in there. And now they just added His Excellency, who ain't a matchmaker, who ain't took a punch. That's insane to me. That like they care that much about money that they're willing to sell it. So that's all I'm saying. Look, and like, it could be a bad thing as well. Like we just said, Tim Tszyu, 154 division is the best division in boxing. Now we just eliminated one of the players at 54 because he didn't want to do business with him. And it doesn't sound like that guy is forgiving. He's like, oh, he's in his way. Just let them be in his way. It's like, wait a minute, what? Like, so you won't spin the block and try to make a fight with him? Because there's a lot of good fights that could be made at 54. If we're talking about him being the savior of boxing, he should focus on the 154 division because he can make some really, really good, tough, competitive fights at 54. And it's like, well, he already eliminated one of the big guys at 54. I'd rather see Bud versus Tim Tszyu than see Bud versus Canelo. That's a casual fight. That's nothing more. Bud cannot beat Canelo. That is strictly a casual fight.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. Well, listen, I'm going to end this because I usually try to do it for an hour, but I haven't done this in so long. I had to put some time in. But you see what happened when I started talking about Turkey? My Wi-Fi started going. So, but look, we're not bashing him. We're just like, I think what we're doing is bringing up valid questions or valid points. Ultimately, what we're saying is he's been good for fighters and he's been good for fans. He's made good fights, and the fans seem to love the fights that he's doing. I'll tell you what I like a lot. I'm on the East Coast. When they have fights from Saudi, they're in the afternoon, so I don't have to stay up till 2 a.m. when they do those fights in Saudi Arabia. Now, what he just did with Bud, that ended at 2 a.m. But when they have those fights in Saudi, it's during the day. So at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, we have the main event. I love that. So I'm all for that.
Same.
All right, my friend. It was good talking to you, man. I'm gonna be around. I appreciate you coming on, and no haters here. We're the no hate club. but I appreciate your views, man. And you and I'll definitely talk soon.
All right, bro.
All right, brother. Talk soon. Man. So it's been almost 2 hours. Had the boxing scholar, had some good people on, and you saw my Wi-Fi started going. You know what, Kegi, you're right. Wait, I want to put this one up. He's not exploiting boxers. At least it doesn't seem like it. He's paying. Guys are getting paid. But my point was, I did not like how he with Tim Tszyu. Like suddenly he's like saying he wouldn't do business with Tim Tszyu because I guess he didn't just jump on board. But appreciate people for being on here and being involved in the chat. Man, Michael said, yeah, man, they put him in the Hall of Fame. That's all I'm saying. You also said you subbed. Yeah, I used to be with them. I don't sub to them anymore, and I don't have their app. But I love Chris Algieri, Paulie Malignaggi, Tim Bradley, Sean Porter, and Teddy Atlas. I respect those guys and support those guys. So, yeah, Kegi, if you don't answer his phone, he gets rid of you. Maybe that's how it is. Maybe that's how it is. But I haven't done a live in a long time. I've been working on a project that hopefully is going to see the light of day soon. Doing some docs on some old fights. And this isn't even a little taste. This was, remember a fighter named Ruslan Provodnikov? A couple weeks ago, I was in LA. It was his, he came back to the wild card and he posted this on Instagram.
Зал Вилдкарт. Я здесь не был 8 лет. Оу!
George,
How are you, my friend?
that's the wild card.
Oh, Freddy, my friend.
Old trainer Freddie Roach.
Смотри. Это вся моя история. Марвин! Жанна! Здорово, друг. Чё ты как? Нормально все? Да уже без меня здесь было. О, почти. Ай!
So anyway, that was Ruslan Provodnikov. I interviewed him. I interviewed Freddie Roach. Like I said, I can't say too much about it, but I'm interviewing Chris Algieri, soon to be interviewing Tim Bradley. So you might be able to guess what fights we'll be talking about. It's been 2 hours. I'm out. Appreciate everyone for being here. We'll do this again soon, and make sure you subscribe because you're going to get a lot of special things like this.
Subscribe to my YouTube page and you can win a once-in-a-lifetime, no expenses paid trip to check out the boxing memorabilia in my garage and in my home office. You can come hit the heavy bag and go through the hundreds of boxing magazines I have, and even take a picture with a life-size Oscar De La Hoya cardboard cutout that I took when I was at HBO. Subscribe now for your chance to win all of this.
There is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow.